Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're tuning in, because today we're going to tackle one of the internet's most fiercely debated, heavily searched, and, quite frankly, wildly misunderstood topics in sexual health. We're looking at the actual connection between masturbation and testosterone. There's just so much noise out there, so we're going to strip away the rumors and look strictly at what the clinical data actually tells us. Let's get right into it.
Now, here's the big question that probably brought you here. Does masturbation lower your testosterone? If you've ever spent even 5 minutes on fitness forums, wellness message boards, or, certain corners of social media, you have almost certainly bumped into these really loud, unsubstantiated claims warning you about the quote-unquote dangers of masturbation. They'll tell you it drains your energy, wreaks havoc on your hormones, and totally depletes your testosterone. If you felt worried or even just a little curious about these claims, hey, that is totally valid. There's a ton of fear-mongering going around. But today, we're setting the record straight once and for all.
But before we start busting myths, we need to lay down a solid foundation. So what exactly is testosterone anyway? Well, it's a fundamental hormone that's intimately linked to your sex drive, which we often just call your libido. And this is a super important point to keep in mind. This is true for both males and females, even though, testosterone is known to have a much more direct, pronounced effect on the male sex drive. Bottom line, it's a completely natural, absolutely necessary hormone for your body to function properly.
So let's see how the internet's favorite theory holds up against the actual science. The widespread claim online is that masturbation just sort of drains your T levels over time. But the scientific reality? The short answer is just a flat no. Masturbation and ejaculation have literally not been shown to have any long-term or negative effects on your testosterone levels. They simply don't drain your hormones away like a leaky faucet.
All right, moving into Section 1, what the science says. Investigating the hormonal timeline. To really grasp why that internet claim is so wildly off base, we need to zoom in and investigate the hormonal timeline. We want to see exactly what happens at a chemical level in your body during sexual arousal and then right after orgasm. This timeline, which comes from a really fascinating 2020 study, breaks it all down beautifully. Just look at step 1, before ejaculation. When you're just experiencing arousal, your levels of cortisol and prolactin naturally start to rise. Then, in step 2, at the exact moment of ejaculation, your testosterone levels actually spike significantly. Yeah, they go up, not down. But here is the absolute kicker in step 3. Just 10 minutes after ejaculation, those testosterone levels, they return right back to your typical baseline. It's a temporary, natural wave. It surges up and then it settles right back to normal. It absolutely doesn't permanently drop.
Now, just to make sure we're giving you the complete picture here, there is a little nuance we should touch on. A 2021 study that looked at healthy young men suggested that masturbation might affect what's called free testosterone. This is basically the type of testosterone that isn't attached to proteins in your blood, which means your body tissues can grab it and use it immediately. The study did note some minor effects here, but, and this is a big but, the researchers themselves were super quick to highlight that we need way more research to fully understand this, especially studies that actually include female participants. But again, to reiterate, absolutely nothing in the data points to long-term depletion.
Okay, on to Section 2, the muscle-building myth, abstinence and athletic performance.
So this hormonal reality we just talked about directly tackles a massive concern for athletes and gym goers, which is this widespread, lingering fear that masturbating will somehow cause you to lose muscle mass or totally tank your workout. It's that old school abstinence theory, right? The idea that completely holding back from sexual activity before sports or lifting weights gives you this physical frustration that magically makes you stronger or more aggressive. But guess what? When we actually look at the clinical evidence, there is little to almost no recent scientific research supporting this idea at all. None.
The biological reality here is crystal clear. Yes, for sure, testosterone is known to help you build muscle by assisting in a process called protein synthesis. But remember that 10-minute timeline we just looked at? Because masturbation causes only very minor, incredibly short-term shifts in your hormones, it absolutely 100% will not stop you from building muscle. Honestly, as long as you're eating right, getting good sleep, and sticking to a solid training regimen, masturbation is definitely not going to hinder your gains in the gym.
Let's move to Section 3, real causes of low T, looking beyond the myths. So if masturbation isn't the culprit behind a long-term drop in testosterone, what actually is? Well, first off, it is absolutely vital to know what actual clinical low testosterone looks like. If you're genuinely worried about your levels, these are the real warning signs you want to watch out for. We're talking about a significantly decreased sex drive, or maybe having trouble getting or keeping an erection, which is known as ED. You might experience unexplained hair loss on your scalp, face, or body, or maybe severe, heavy exhaustion that you just can't shake, or a really noticeable loss of muscle and bone mass. Also, gaining higher amounts of body fat, particularly around the chest, and experiencing totally unexplained mood changes. Those are the legitimate clinical symptoms.
And if you happen to be experiencing those symptoms, we need to look at the true biological culprits. And spoiler alert, notice that masturbation is literally nowhere on this list. It's your overall lifestyle choices and chronic health conditions that truly impact your hormone levels over time. For instance, smoking cigarettes and drinking excessive amounts of alcohol. Those have a heavily documented negative impact on your T levels. On top of that, chronic health conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, thyroid issues, and obesity, those are the real undeniable drivers of lowered testosterone.
But right here is where we hit a major aha moment in this explainer. There is a fascinating psychological twist to all of this. You see, while the physical act of masturbation doesn't lower your testosterone, the emotions surrounding it actually can. It's wild, right? Social or interpersonal pressures, like constantly being told that masturbation is somehow wrong, immoral, or even equivalent to cheating on a partner, can make someone feel incredibly guilty or uncomfortable about simply exploring their own body.
Let's actually map out this psychological stress loop, because it's basically a massive domino effect. It starts with that heavy guilt we just talked about, or perhaps relationship troubles if you and your partner just aren't seeing eye to eye on this. That guilt and relationship stress lead directly to clinical anxiety and depression. And here is the real kicker. Anxiety and depression genuinely, physically lower your testosterone levels, which of course in turn lowers your sex drive and can cause erectile dysfunction. So think about that. The physical act itself was never the problem. It was the shame and the stress surrounding the act that actually caused the hormonal drop in the first place.
Let's dive into Section 4, the surprising health benefits, reframing sexual health.
Having totally busted those negative myths and finally uncovered the real danger of sexual shame, it's time to pivot to the good stuff. According to a massive, comprehensive 2021 study, not only is masturbation harmless to your T levels, it's actually considered a highly healthy behavior packed with proven psychological and physical benefits. Far from draining you, masturbation is a completely safe, natural way to experience sexual pleasure, whether you're solo or with a partner. It is proven to relieve stress and take the edge off sexual tension. It improves your overall mood, helps you relax, and significantly reduces anxiety. It even promotes deeper, more satisfying sleep. Plus, it honestly just helps you learn more about your own sexual desires, which ultimately improves your sex life across the board.
Now, to make sure you're actually getting all those great benefits without falling into that psychological guilt trap we discussed earlier, communication is absolutely key. If you're in a relationship, talk openly with your partner so that you're both on the exact same page about the role of masturbation in your lives. And hey, if you are struggling with deep-seated guilt or shame, maybe consider seeking out individual or couples therapy. It's nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, resolving those issues is actually a highly proactive way to maintain healthy testosterone levels, simply because it removes the anxiety and depression that truly drain your hormones.
So, let's wrap this up. We've walked through the hormonal timelines, we've definitively debunked those gym bro myths, and we've seen how psychological shame, and definitely not the act itself, is the true enemy of your testosterone. I want to leave you with this one thought. How will you reframe your sexual health today? I really challenge you to drop the wild internet rumors, focus on your real health metrics like diet and stress management, and most importantly, approach your own sexual well-being without a single ounce of shame. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.